and this is the global generic. Osnat, there was a lot of world building in Raya and the Last Dragon, with 5 different lands to create, all in a fantasy world inspired by Southeast Asia. How exciting was that, and what is the most challenging aspect?
Well, we got to create a movie with 5 different lands that feel like five movies that were designed, because in each one there's different outfits, there's different materials people can build from, there's different way of them relating to the dragon. So their sociology and who they are in relation to the dragon actually affects how the design is, and all of that with finding inspiration from so many varied cultures in Southeast Asia, and what are the underlying principles. How do we find them and then apply them into the history and the kind of cosmology and the design of the world of Kumandra and the 5 lands in it and the river in it. So it was a lot that we imagined, and a lot had to be realized. But we also ended up with, we have these amazing crew and amazing departments who have different ideas on how to realize for us more of the world than you actually see. There's always a sense that there's more to visit on this epic journey. There were definitely technological challenges. There were all sorts of challenges to it, but it's the challenges that we all live for. We love them in order to create a world that's immersive as that.
Adele, this is Disney's first Southeast Asian inspired film. How meaningful is that to you?
Oh, it's tremendously important. As someone who grew up in Southeast Asia and grew up on Disney animated feature movies, I never thought in my wildest dreams that I'd be part of not just an animated Disney feature, but also, being part of creating a character that was inspired by the cultures and the faces of Southeast Asia. I hope, the larger message that Raya is able to bring to kids from around the world, not just in Southeast Asia, is that, no matter what you look like or where you come from, that your story and your face is definitely worth celebrating.
Osnat, how important were the contributions of the Southeast Asia Story Trust to the filmmaking process?
When we first decided that we'd be telling a story about coming together, about looking around us, all of us, at the world and how divided it is, and how the divisions are so often used to separate rather than to come together, how important that was to us. And we were looking at these lands around the Dragon River, and the dragon was inspired by the Eastern dragon, particularly in Southeast Asia, the Naga and the dragon of Southeast Asia, who are connected to water and auspiciousness and life. And we went on our first research trip to Southeast Asia, and we're talking about a very large region, 11 countries, multiple cultures, traditions, ethnicities. And one of the things that struck us right away everywhere we went was the sense of community, the sense of the importance of we, which is exactly what we wanted the story to be about. So we came back and thought about it and decided, that's it. This is a complete fantasy world, but it's going to be inspired and grounded in inspiration from the region. So we started bringing on experts, and we brought on a wonderful cultural anthropologist, Dr. Runsak, who's worked with us throughout, who's Lao, but whose expertise is in visual representation of culture, of ritual throughout Southeast Asia. So you can imagine what a great resource he was for us. Archaeologist, gamelan master, dancer, textile experts. And organically, these people become what we end up calling the Southeast Asia Story Trust, because they're part of what keeps us both grounded and kind of connected, as well as always checking across the region. What does it mean? What are the commonalities? How do we hold the cultures in respect? And then, of course, key to it was also having quite a number of key members of the core creative storytelling team who are from the region, whether it's Qui, whose roots are Vietnamese culture, or Thai, our head of story, Fawn Versenthorn, and many, many others. So I think the key is that there are people within the telling of the story, including our trust and our key story members, who are from the region and who bring that in their DNA, in their everyday.
Okay, this is the Global Broadcast Generic. Okay, so let's go ahead and start off with Dawn. Dawn, tell us about the epic scope and look of the film as Raya journeys through the different lands of Kumandra.
That's one of the things I'm most excited by with this film, is the opportunity to visit, completely different locations. It's almost like having 5 movies in one. And so much of the film takes place outside, in exteriors. And our production design team, our cinematography team really did amazing work in bringing all these environments to life in such a rich and cinematic way.
Carlos, what is the Southeast Story Trust and how did they work with you?
The Southeast Asian Story Trust is a group of people from the region that our team assembled when they went on the research trip. So it has architects, it has anthropologists, it has musicians, sociologists, and all these people are with us from day one until still now, helping us craft the movie from the inside, helping us understand the cultures that we're inspired by, checking every piece of design, every version of the script, every cut that we put together, and really just became our key collaborators throughout the entire process.
Qui, what does it mean to you to be a part of Disney's first Southeast Asian inspired film?
It's truly a dream come true, without a doubt. Like, you know, growing up, like this goes down to the very DNA of why I wanted to be a writer in the first place, was to, you know, make superheroes. Like, and, you know, I was a big fan of Stan Lee, and to be able to make not just a superhero, but one that looks like my kids, that celebrates the cultures that my parents and I come from. It's something that I never could have imagined would be happening, but to be able to actually be doing that is an honor that I still am pinching myself to be part of.
Carlos and Dawn, trust is an important theme in the film. How did that theme evolve and how important is it?
You want to take the first half and I'll take the second?
How did that theme evolve, right? That was the question. So I think when Qui and Carlos and myself first came on board about 1.5 years ago, you know, we sat down and asked ourselves, you know, what was going to be the theme of this movie, and start with theme, you know, I think it's important to start with the overarching thematic idea, because it's going to be the spine that connects the whole movie. And very early, I think, in our discussion, we hit upon this idea of trust being the theme of the movie. It's a fragmented world, a world that was once unified, that has been broken into pieces. And so what is the big thing that is keeping them from coming together? And we felt like trust would be the perfect thematic element to actually bring the world of Kumandra together, but also to kind of bring this story together. And it permeated every decision that we made from then on out.
Yeah, the story follows 5 different characters from different lands, each of them having a completely different worldview, completely different set of ideologies and philosophy, and it asks the question, what is it going to take for these 5 people to coexist, to learn to work together, to reach out and trust each other again? And the journey that Raya goes on is that learning, coming from a place that is very, very much fragmented, and learning the tools that she's going to need to be able to take that first step towards reconnecting with these people that are so different from her.
Qui, tell us about the dragon mythology and how you went about creating Sisu.
The dragon, Sisu, is based on the Naga Southeast Asian cultures. It's very different than the Western dragon, one that we more typically see in cinema, which is, basically a big monster guarding a treasure, a creature of intimidation. The Southeast Asian dragon, the Nagas specifically, is one based in water, one that's based in life and hope and inspiration. And so what's so great about this character is she's a character that is one that is inviting, and one that is kind of almost like a piece of divinity that Raya gets to become friends with. And when you marry that with an amazing actor like Awkwafina, that's really the magic that makes Sisu Sisu. It's deep cultural mythology mixed with a inventive and genius actor like Awkwafina, and that really creates the voice for this incredible character.
Okay, Dawn, Qui said a little bit something about this, but perhaps you can add. Why are Kelly Marie Tran and Awkwafina the perfect actors for Raya and Sisu?
Well, I'll take Kelly first. I think, I mean, Kelly is so buoyant, and she is light incarnate in terms of just her personality. And, you know, for the character of Raya, the character could have easily slid into a character being kind of stoic and sort of quiet and severe. So it's very important for us to create our version of Raya, that we have an actor who would never be that. You know, I think Kelly is just inherently, she's got a fantastic sense of humor. She's just good to her core, and was able to find also not just the humor of Raya, but the vulnerability and the pathos in Raya's situation. And then for Aquafina, you know, again, the character of Sisu could have been one that was almost too reverent, you know, without a personality, you know, because we're dealing with a creature that is beyond human, you know, emotions or feelings. But it was important for us that the character Sisu be, you know, have human traits and be relatable to everybody. And of course, you know, Awkwafina is just a force of nature as a performer, you know, in terms of just her ability to do comedy. It's unprecedented, but also dramatic. Dramatic tones. I think she's fantastic at sort of all the facets of Sisu.
Carlos, there are some rich visual motives in the film. Can you talk about the importance of water and food, for example?
The importance of water is directly tied to the Naga and them being water creatures. And in our film, water is the most important element. It brings life, but it also represents unity, and it represents the dragons, which represent harmony. So throughout the film, I mean, Sisu being a water dragon, water really is a very important idea in the movie. You'll get to see very clearly why. Food is another concept that we use in our storytelling to bring people together. This is a story about people who are fragmented and have to learn to trust and have to learn to coexist. And food being such an important cultural element, it represents togetherness, it represents sharing, it represents taking time to experience a moment with someone else. So food is used throughout the entire movie in tracking where these characters are. Raya, earlier in the movie, eats this jackfruit jerky that she makes herself and doesn't share with anyone, and that is the only thing that she'll consume because she doesn't really want to eat anyone else's food, doesn't really want to have that moment. She's been hurt and is just on the very, very opposite end of the antitrust. And throughout the movie, she meets all these characters, and through food, she starts opening up. Other characters start welcoming her, start offering their trust to them. And towards the end of the movie, we see that all these characters are finally sharing a meal, are finally sitting at the same table, sharing this moment. And it's a really beautiful experience to track trust through food.
Qui, tell us about the martial arts in the film and how you contributed to that element.
Well, I got the honor of being one of the martial arts consultants on the film, and you know, when it comes to making the martial arts for it, it was very much like we wanted to, you know, like everything in this film, you know, be inspired by the actual martial arts from Southeast Asia, specifically in the sense of, you know, the styles that we used. It was Pinjak Salat, Arnis, Muay Thai, and traditional Vietnamese wrestling. And that was basically to be able to celebrate those things, but also for me, if a kid loves this movie and inspired by this movie, I wanted it to be something that they could go out and study. And that was these real martial arts that mean so much to me, as you know, I'm from Southeast Asian background myself.
Okay, and this is for whoever would like to add. What was the most exciting part of making this film for you, and what do you hope audiences experience and take away with them when they see Raya and the Last Dragon?
I guess for me, one of the most exciting things about making this film was also one of the most difficult, which is the fact that we, had to basically make this film at home over the course of the last year and a half because of the pandemic, and it was so different for us that, for those of us that have been here a while, it was a very different way of working, and the fact that we kind of overcame all the challenges, both technical and Disney cultural, to make this beautiful film is something I'm extremely proud of. And if people took away one thing, it's just the thematic of trust and how it takes a true act of bravery to reach out and trust somebody that you don't. And what can come out of that is something beautiful, something that it can lead to unity. And so it's worth it.
We knew a year and a half ago when we started working on this movie that the thematic elements were timely, but as time passed and as 2020 came and went, we realized that this conversation could not be more necessary, and this movie couldn't be arriving at a better time. It really encourages people to think about what are the steps that we need to take in order to be able to coexist and to be able to work with someone who we naturally wouldn't, or who we believe to have more differences than similarities. So I think we're just mostly excited to be able to provide a little bit into that conversation and to give people something inspiring to take them away from these very complicated times that we exist in right now.
Yeah, Raya is such a warrior, such a badass. She's such a, she can do martial arts, but she's basically a superhero. But I think that what's so important is the true superheroic act at the end of this movie is trust, is something that we all can do. That was the real act of bravery that she does to save the world. And I think that in real life, that is kind of the thing that we really desperately need right now, is just a reminder that, we have more in common than differences.
Okay, thank you. That is all. That's a cut.
This will be our global broadcast generic. First question for Kelly, what attracted you to the project?
So many things. I think, firstly, just the fact that it's part of the Disney animation world. And then growing up as a kid, I was so obsessed with all of the Disney animated movies, and recognizing the legacy behind that, I think, is definitely one of the things that attracted me to it. The second thing is just the representation aspect of it, recognizing that this movie was going to be inspired by the part of the world that my family's from, made me really excited. And the third thing is that Raya is a very different type of character. And I think Disney's really trying to broaden the idea of what people think when they think of the words hero, when they think of the word princess. Like, Raya is unlike any princess or hero we've seen in this world before. And I think that, it's really cool to be a part of.
And Aquafina, what attracted you to the project?
I think what attracted me to the project was just hearing what it was about, and how it would not only feature kind of the cultures of Southeast Asia, but also its first Southeast Asian Disney princess. And then hearing about the character that they had in mind for me, Sisu, that she was able to kind of explore being funny, but then also being, having these kind of like tearjerker scenes that really I loved reading. And I think playing her was really just one of the greatest joys of my life. It really, really loved it.
Kelly, much has been said about Raya being the first Southeast Asian princess. So how do you feel about getting to voice her, and how is she different from other princess characters that we have seen?
I feel like it is and doesn't really make sense. It's really incredible to be a part of. And when I think of, just the legacy of all of these incredible Disney movies, and specifically if we're talking about Disney princesses, Raya is a really different character. And I want to be really specific about the way that I speak about Disney princesses. I think a lot of times people say there's sort of a negative connotation about those earlier movies. And I don't necessarily believe that. I think those earlier movies are really good. I think the problem is when we sort of have a really narrow perception of what it means to be a princess. And now we're sort of opening up the doors in terms of the types of people that we think of when we think of those words, because there really is nothing wrong with like wanting to be in love or liking pretty dresses. There's nothing wrong with that. I think what happens is the danger becomes when we only see the same types of representation over and over and over. So you think that's the only thing you can do.
Mhm.
That's when it becomes a negative thing. So it's really cool that we are, you know, part of a movie that is changing that. And Raya is someone who is a warrior and who gets to be really angry, which we haven't seen before. Who, yeah, I'm just really excited for people to see this movie and to meet this character.
Beautiful. Aquafina, Sisu is an unusual dragon character. She certainly doesn't fit the mold. What do you find the most fun about playing her, and how is she a relatable character?
I mean, I always love playing relatable characters. I never really thought that I'd find one in a dragon. I think with the normal way that we're introduced to those characters is kind of in my experience, I think of the Game of Thrones dragons comes to mind, where, you know, they're kind of just these symbols of, they're just so cool. You know what I mean? And while Sisu is very, very cool, she's also imperfect and flawed, and she's aware of those flaws. And she's very trusting and like loving, almost to a fault. She's innocent. These are all traits that I think at certain times in my life I can identify with, and that, you know, I just really had fun playing, exploring. Yeah.
Amazing. Tell us about the unusual experience of recording from your homes and working with the directors over the internet. What was the most challenging and what was the most fun? We'll start with Kelly.
The most challenging thing about working from home, well, I was really lucky because my boyfriend's a genius and was able to create this incredible setup where, actually, Awkwafina, I wanted to ask, did you have to do a lot of ADR lines?
I did do ADR. I don't know what's considered a lot. I think it was maybe 1 or 2 sessions of it.
Yeah. Okay, so my boyfriend's like a crazy genius. I'm not sure how he did it, but because of his setup, I only had to do, like, I'm not exaggerating, like 4 lines for the whole movie.
Well, I think it's his setup, but also, you know, probably your performance.
No. I'm pretty sure it's his microphone.
Can I have come over? I mean, like, I think we're still in ADR. The movie's coming out.
You want to come over?
I have an ADR session tomorrow, actually.
But yeah, the challenges were that obviously would have loved to have been in the same room and be able to sort of create that really cool, like, creative collaboration that happens when you're all in the same place, like space, and playing off of each other. But that being said, oh yeah, wait, sorry, more challenges. The list goes on and on. The internet cutting out, bad. Any sounds from outside, and there's a lot of construction around. A lot of sounds.
And hold traffic from the inside.
Sirens, just like constant barrage.
Yelling.
Yeah. But that being said, I will say there were some positive experiences about it, and and those included being able to see inside people's homes, and, you know, and getting more of their personality. Okay, I know that sounds so creepy, but
No, it's not. It's true. That's
like,
so true.
Talk about Carlos's plants. That guy has a flourishing plant population.
I was in his office most of the time.
Really?
He didn't show I didn't show, when we were in sessions, he was mostly in his office, which didn't have a lot of plants. It had a lot of light, though. It was a room with good light.
Really? Okay.
So we know that about his house. That's why he has a lot of plants. I mean,
yeah.
I mean, he lives in an atrium. I have no idea, but I loved guessing.
Oh man. But yeah, getting to see like more parts of people's lives that we wouldn't normally get to see was pretty cool.
Thanks. And then what do you hope audiences will take away when they see Raya and the Last Dragon? Awkwafina, we'll start with you.
I hope audiences see the message that I think is a really big part of the movie, and I think of all Disney movies. But for this one, trust and unity over hate. And also I hope that some people can watch the movie and identify a familiarity about the places and the people and the things that they're seeing, and then people who aren't familiar with it will gain some kind of understanding of what that world is like. And I mostly hope that everyone enjoys it.
Yep.
Great. Kelly, anything to add?
But yeah, I guess I agree with everything Awkwafina said in terms of wanting people to leave with the idea that fighting for a better world, even if you're living during a time where you don't even know it exists, is a worthwhile cause. And recognizing that the one thing to bring us out of all of this would be our communities and our relationships with each other. I think that that's something that stayed with me watching the movie, and I hope it resonates with people.